So welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting for April 15th, 2021. We'll follow our standard agenda as was tagged in the issue within the repository. So to start out with, any announcements that people would like to share? If nobody else has any, the one I will say is that the Next 10 survey closes tomorrow. So if anybody hasn't filled that out but is interested, if they could, do that quickly, that would be great. Moving on to the CPC and board meeting updates. There is a board meeting next week. A week tomorrow. I don't currently have anything on the list to bring up, so if there is anything, let me know. In terms of CPC updates, Mary, do you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, so let's move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. The first one is mark callback-based FS APIs as legacy. This is number 37948. Let me just open that up. I think we may have had this on last week, but it was like, we wanted more people to go in and comment in terms of what they were thinking. I don't know if there's any, do we have anything we need to discuss this week?
I mean, I think we ended up with last week, everybody agreed that we should discourage using the callbacks API, but we don't know how to do that. And legacy felt too strong. But I think there was like, one option was to also put into the documentation, this API is discouraged or whatever, and not actually call it legacy.
Right.
But I think that discussion can continue in the issue though.
Right, so let's see. Is that something that we should comment on in the issue? Like basically say we've discussed it at the TSC, this was kind of the feeling, we're going to let the discussion continue in the issue, put it back on the agenda if you think there's, you want the TSC to weigh in again.
Yeah, I'm a little unsure what the question for the TSC is in relation to this issue.
I guess it was looking for opinions.
Like, is there something we're supposed to answer?
I think this should have been labeled TSC review instead of TSC agenda.
Yeah, we don't have TSC review anymore though, so.
Oh, yeah, I missed that. Okay.
General feeling, like I said, the general feeling was one, it's too early to mark them as legacy. Two, it would a good alternative would be to update docs to discourage their use / explain the issue and how the promises based APIs solve them. Taking off the TSC agenda, please re-add if there is another question. Feedback needed. Okay. So I'll add that. So I'm just going to add this to the minutes to, oh yeah, okay. So you're adding the minutes. Great, thank you very much. I will add that there and take it off the agenda. Oops, sorry, I just clicked the wrong button. Okay, so thanks. We can move on to the next one, which is DNS default to verbatim true in DNS lookup. So this one I can see, Ruben, you've been involved in the discussion. Do you want to take this one?
So the main problem here is that it would break in the ecosystem in a substantial way. So, and this would, on a lot of systems, without any other change, just fail a lot of tests and even regular code, where people anticipated that localhost would be 127.0.0.1.
Right.
And we do have to either have a special case for this, or it would probably be a too substantial breaking change to land this. It is definitely a huge breaking change at the moment. It will become a bigger breaking change over time, though. So we have to do something about it soonish. The suggestion here was to move forward with an alternative where it would be where people would be able to opt into the behavior for the node.js instance. And this is probably a good way to do this as a Zember minor in the beginning, and then we can still see if we would want to have like a special behavior for localhost that would always resolve to 127.0.0.1 instead of even if the IP version 6.1 would be returned. That might be an alternative, but it was not yet fully discussed as far as I know. I did not check all the most recent comments.
Okay, so in terms of TSC comment, does it seem blocked or like?
And this specific one, I would say, yes, it is blocked. Let me check. Was added here.
Because it sounds like there's some proposal, like the other suggestions of like making it opt-in.
Yeah, so having an opt-in for now on a global scope, that would be a good way of dealing with it for now. We could land that as a Zember minor. But in the current state, I would highly recommend against landing it. Even though it is the right thing to do later on, maybe.
Matteo has commented on the V16 PR that he'd like to see it merged in V16, but I don't know if that's possible.
But I guess everyone is fine with the opt-in approach, right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
So yeah, this would be the recommendation out of my perspective. And since no one has spoken against the opt-in, that would be something we can land in version 16, definitely.
Right, although it's pretty close, Beth, to the cutoff, right?
Yeah, but we could even do that as a Zember minor, you know. We
right,
could,
oh yeah, yeah, yes, yeah,
yeah.
good point. So get that in, yeah, into 16, but as an opt-in. Okay, so I'm just wondering, like from the TSC's perspective, it seems like there was some discussion, and you know, is it heading towards doing an opt-in that will let it land, or is it that we need to actually comment that that's what the discussion here was, or what's kind of the, what do we need to do, I guess is the question.
I do think we may need to be clear that the December major one, which is the one on the agenda, is unlikely to make 16 because I don't think we will reach consensus on it in time before Tuesday, to be honest. And then the minor one, as it's minor, it's less urgent, to be honest, to figure out consensus because it can just get bundled into 16.1.0, which is during like the week after. So.
Okay, so maybe I could, so I can say was discussed in the TSC meeting from those who were there. set. Consensus was that the opt-in approach would be okay. Semver can be landed after 16.x.
There is already
Release.
a pull request for an opt-in, but I think we are talking not about that pull request, but about any opt-in that should be discussed separately on GitHub. Like we are not talking about merging that specific pull request that opts in via command line flags.
So sorry, I didn't quite follow that.
I meant that this resolution doesn't mean that we necessarily match that specific opt-in pull request with this link.
Right, okay. So how about this? This is the comment I'm typing. Let me just paste that in. Does this comment sort of reflect what you were suggesting? Actually, maybe that's not the right, I may be pasting on the wrong one though, yeah, so maybe that should specifically reference the PR you mentioned?
No, that looks good.
That's good? Okay. So maybe I'll comment that. Should I take it off the TSC agenda or leave it on, do we think?
Could maybe ask Matteo, who is the one who did the label.
Okay. Okay, that's a good idea. And Kalina. Okay, so I'm just adding this one where I basically say we're asking Matteo if. Okay, so let me just write. Okay, good. So let's move on to the next issue, unless there's something more to talk about on that one. Okay, the next one is number 37678. Beth, I think you may have tagged this one. This is the 16.x release.
Yep, mainly tagged just for visibility. So the release is due to go out on Tuesday. Most of the content's finalized. I have put an ask out for people to let me know if there's any particular bug fixes or patches I should wait for before generating the final RC. So yeah, it was mainly on there for visibility. There is a comment in the proposal where I called out all of the Semver majors that landed technically past the cutoff. So if people have any objections to those, please check it out and let us know if you have any objections before Tuesday, so we have time to revert it. But so far, everyone's put thumbs up to the ones we included after the deadline. And yeah, so on Tuesday, it will be released. We're coordinating a release announcement with the OpenJS Foundation that is sent out to the TSC email just before this call. So if you could check that out and review as well, that would be good. And other than that, there are a few Citrix failures that I'm going to try and dig into. That's it. Everything's almost ready.
That's great news. I guess we should have announced that earlier on as well. Like, hey, there's a major release coming out next Tuesday, and that's the one that will become LTS in October. So we are looking for people to start testing that out and using it as soon as it's available. Okay, anything more you want to say on that one, Beth, before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, the next one is number 37277, which is depths add yarn. We discussed that last time and agreed that we would put together a vote. There's some fairly active discussion in the issue in terms of what the question should be and look like. I don't know if there's anything that we want to discuss this time.
So I just want to point out that I shared the draft for the vote page on the vote issue. If folks can look at it, see if the options that are there are okay, and if the summary is enough for us to start the vote, that would be great. I also shared the settings, so if anyone disagrees with the settings that were chosen, please let me know. I think
Is there
now
any, sorry, not as a non-expert, is there anything about the settings that's interesting, or?
there are things like making the vote private or not, requiring folks to vote for every option or not.
Okay, so which way is it on every option or not?
So it's non-private vote right now, so I will be able to share who voted for what after the vote. And it's not required to vote for every option.
Okay.
I chose that because some folks will abstain from the vote. So I think it makes sense to not require.
No, that's why I was asking. Like, I'd prefer not having to vote for some of them. So that's yeah, sounds good.
And only outstanding questions are: when should we start the vote? For how long it should run? And will the new TSC members participate on the vote? Are they onboarded already? Should we wait for them to be onboarded?
Yeah, I think like by our governance, I don't think they would vote if they're not onboarded. So that would be a question. Yeah, that's not one I've thought about, so I'm not sure whether we should do that. I know we don't want to drag it out too long, but that is definitely a good question. I think in terms of when to start the vote, we want to start it, you know, kind of as soon as we can, but we need to agree on the questions, right? I think there's still some some discussion about the content of the questions. Once we figure that, and then I don't know, like in terms of time, like I think leaving it open for a week is probably long enough. I'm not sure what people think.
Yeah, I think for the promise, we left it open for a week. I don't remember for sure.
Does anybody have any concerns with a week being too short, too long?
I'm more curious about how many votes do we think we need to, make a decision.
What do you mean by how many votes?
So, like, how many TSC members would have to vote for it to make sense?
That is a good question. I have to go back to our governance and see if there's anything that basically says we need at least some portion. See if we can quickly find that in the governance.
I think it's simple majority. Yeah, for all votes, a simple majority of all TSC members for or against the issue wins. So we have 19 TSC members today, I think. We would need 10 votes in favor of one of the options.
Because I mean, we can make a decision either way, regardless of if we don't have small minority in either direction. So having a time limit, I'm not sure how much that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the like we don't want to drag it out forever. So I think saying we plan to close it on this date. If we don't get enough votes, then we'll have to figure out what to do. But
yeah,
because if there's that, at least gives somebody a heads up that like, hey, if I don't vote by then, enough other people do vote, then I'm out of luck, right?
yeah.
And yeah, we should look like halfway through and chase the people who haven't voted. I mean, I guess that it does beg the question in terms of using our, like what a simple majority means for, what is it, RSV? Probably getting that wrong.
RCV.
RCV, right.
It kind of has to be one or the other. Either it's a time limit or it's the minimum amount of votes. Having both is a little bit confusing.
Well, but I think you could have a case where, say, in the first 2 days, enough, more than half the people vote. But especially with RCV, more people voting, I think, can actually change. Like, it's not like people haven't just voted for one thing. So like, I think a few more people could actually mean that you knock something out and then you have the second one. And
makes sense.
For the promise rejection, we had 4 absentees, so we had 15 votes. We can for this vote, we can ask folks that are absenting to also vote, but not select any options.
Yeah, that would make sense. And I guess what we're thinking, that means that whatever choice is selected, it needs to have at least half the people half the TSC having voted for it once you go through the RCV process. So if it's not on, if it's your second choice, that could still count as one of those votes. But if you didn't vote for it at all, then it wouldn't count. Okay.
We can also have a soft time limit of 1 week.
Sure.
And we evaluate how the voter is going after 1 week.
Yeah, we could say it's a target of 1 week. Okay, so anything more? I think the discussion's continuing in the issue. We should probably leave it on the agenda, but I think we're making progress. Anything else we should talk about? No, okay. Let's move on to the next issue, which is 36111. This is the TLS improve compliance with shutdown standard and remove hacks. I know we've talked about this a few times. It's quite a complex issue. Tobias had, sort of volunteered to take a look and dive into it. I see there were some more comments. So I guess, Robert, do you have any more insight comments on this one, since I see you've been involved?
No, it's a tricky one. I'm good with it. I think Tobias is good with it as well. It's hard to say exactly what's, whether this will have open other issues or bugs, but I think it looks good. Would it be nice to have James' opinion on it? But other than that, I don't think there's anything further we can do.
Okay. I have James's input. It's Semper Major.
It's not.
It's not Semver Major, no. Okay, so if it's not Semver Major, then it basically probably it can land. I forget. I think we don't even require 2 approvals anymore, right?
No. Yeah, it's still failing CI, so that has to be sorted first.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anything further for us to do.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it from the agenda, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm just going to comment there too. Removed TSC agenda since let me just see who added it to the agenda.
Rich did.
Okay, so I'll comment that. Take it off the agenda. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So rename default branch from master to main or something similar. I'm not sure there's too much to discuss there other than to, just remind people if they have some cycles to go through and look at some of the repos you're familiar with and help get that happened. Many thanks to Michael Zasso, who went through, and I think he did that for like 22 repos. So we are making progress, continue to work on it. Anything else that people think we should talk about on that one this week? Okay, so let's move on. So moderation team certification. This is number 1014. This is a yearly recert that we need to do. The discussion there, I think we need to have an actual vote. We do need to have a vote. Figure out who the current folks are to recertify. So I think that's the first step. I don't think there's anything for us to do, but sort of a heads up that there will be a vote asked for at some point. Any other questions, discussion on that one before we move on? Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is 1004, which is revisit the meeting times. I guess Robert and Antoine, have you managed to fill in the spreadsheet? That all makes sense. Okay. I don't know, Chalker, if you've then taken a look at the results.
Yes, the results that I mentioned in the issue are already outdated.
Okay.
Because there were some recent updates.
Okay.
Let's wait a bit more, I think. But most likely we'll be moving to the meetings 1 hour later, and one meeting. Let me check the data.
Okay, so likely some meetings will move an hour later.
Yes.
So do you want to set a target? Like, do you want to redo it? Are you going to like redo it for next meeting or a few days, or what's kind of the plan?
I actually don't know, but from what I give me a second. From what I currently see, I think that perhaps moving. When is the next meeting going to be?
It is, let me look. The next meeting is, oops, sorry. The next one is 9 a.m. Eastern on the 22nd, which is a week today.
And in UTC, that's when?
Let's see. I open up the issue. No, that's not the issue. Current time 9 ET in UTC. I think that will be 1 p.m. UTC. Yeah, it's 1 p.m. UTC is what the converter just told me.
That's unlikely. Probably it's 2 p.m. UTC, but that's the most controversial one. And to move that, let's not move that one yet. If it was one of the 2 other time slots, we could just move that 1 hour later already, because
okay,
that's what the date tells me. But for the next one, let's keep that as it is, and after that, move to the new time slots.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so the next one is nominations for TSC membership. Oh, go ahead.
So we have 2 folks who haven't filled the spreadsheet yet. Should we contact them directly? Just make sure that everyone fills a spreadsheet before making a decision?
I think maybe we should send them maybe one more email. Like we can't chase everybody forever, but you know, another heads up that says, hey, we noticed. Do you have that list? Could you send an email to those people, kind of saying, hey, do you want to take a look?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks. That'd be great. Okay, Mary. Oops, I'm just going to take that note. Okay, the next one is nominations for TSC TSC membership. That's on the agenda, sort of as I guess awareness, and we've got you know, Robert and Antoine who are here. Sort of we usually have people attend a few meetings before the final confirmation. So I don't think there's anything to discuss on that one. The next one is any interest in an RFC process. That one I think is kind of waiting on Rich, who had mentioned that he had some thoughts and was thinking on that. So I suggest we actually skip that one until the next meeting where we have Rich. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. The next one is the Apple Silicon plan. So that was on the agenda because it was of good interest, and just looking to see if there's any updates. Yeah, I don't see any recent updates, but I think my understanding is we're basically set to have Apple Silicon binaries for the 16.x release, and that the package installer will create a FAT binary which has support for both Intel and Apple Silicon. So I think we're good. Beth, correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
I think it's good. I haven't yet run an RC that picks up the new binaries. I hope to do that soon, like today, tomorrow morning, and send it out to people with both flavors of Mac to try out.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. Thanks to Ash, who did a lot of work on getting that in place, and everybody else who helped him. The next issue is potential stagnation of the open issues in H1 Bounty program. So that's in the ecosystem vulnerability program, which we've agreed to wind down. Have had some more back and forth, got confirmation from the OpenJS Foundation that our proposed approach is okay. And I've just put together a blog post that SNCC is taking a look at, and the OpenJS Foundation stuff. So that's sort of moving slowly forward. The next one is add workgroup Charty and Dutsi, which is pull number 626. This one, I'm wondering if last I looked at it, it looked like it was progressing. That's still a draft.
The TSC needs to approve it before.
Right. So, okay.
The question is, how does the TSC approve it?
Right. Well, there's review changes. So, you know, basically it should be enough TSC approvals. Let's see how many there's. Yeah. So I think, let me just look at the governance there, but I think it's just our usual governance. So working groups. Yeah, it doesn't say that there's anything extra than, you know, basically a regular approval of a PR for landing. So I would say that, you know, there's no, okay, I've set stress, I have time to approve it. I'm going to comment and say, you know, Teo, this has had enough time for people to object if they were going to. You want to move out of draft. Because I think it's probably likely ready to land. But if anybody on the TSC here can go and, you know, add approvals, that would be great. Or if anybody has any concerns, then, you know, again, to go there. Okay, anything more to discuss on that one?
No, I'm just happy it's happening.
Yep. Yeah, so it may take us a little while sometimes, but it does happen. That takes us to the end of the things tagged for the agenda. So now we can take a quick pop over to the strategic initiatives. Let me open that and we'll just take a quick look. People we have here, build resources is one, but I don't have an update on that. I think really that one, you know, in terms of asking for additional funding or anything from the board is probably, you know, waiting till the overall economic climate improves a little bit. So no update on that. Mary, is there any updates on the future of tool chains?
No.
Okay. So that's all we have in terms of people who are leading those. Build. So that takes us to the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we call it a day? It sounds like not. So thanks for everybody for taking the time to come, and thanks for everybody who's been watching. and we will see everybody next time.